gets a dose of Dr. Drew.
Hey guys, welcome in. Pile on in here. We said we'd be here, so we're going to be here. And see what you guys have on your mind. Don't get my hope up. Help not really wanted. What's that all about? What can you do to prevent pancreatic cancer so it won't return? Lisa, I'm not sure what you're asking. Preventing pancreatic cancer, there's no known prevention. And I don't know what you're talking about in terms of recurrence on pancreatic cancer. What type? Do I think that Dr. Fauci would take hydroxychloroquine and zinc if he got COVID? That's an interesting question. I would hope he would listen to his doctor and not do what he wants to do. That would be interesting. Good afternoon, Shauna. Flipping Birdies. Interesting screen name. We will try to keep being a voice of calm center. Except for A4DB calling me a fraud for reasons that are unclear. So please specify. Vaccine update. We have no updates today other than what we were talking about yesterday. I've signed up for 3 phase 3 trials, and thus far no feedback. I have a friend of mine signed up for a couple as well, and we're having trouble getting into that phase 3 trial. Johnny Wrestling says Dr. Fauci has done a terrible job. Please, again, be very specific so we can talk about it. Oh my gosh, the Miss Mindy show, a second degree burn on your hands. How did that happen? How much melatonin is safe to take? Up to 10 milligrams, though most people really don't need, in reality, much more than 1 milligram, but you can take up to 10. Lisa, you had a Whipple a few years ago. I don't want it to come back. Well, Whipple is a major operation. And as you know, some of those cancers, particularly in the tail of the pancreas, can be cured. So good for you. And if it was a few years ago and there's been no recurrence, I mean, that's a pretty good sign. So all you can do is live a healthy life, as healthy a lifestyle as possible, and just hope for the best. I mean, the solid tumors, pancreas, lung, colon, are really nefarious adversaries. They're really tough. Hey, Dave in Australia, nice. Does zinc lower your copper levels? Yes, Kathy, zinc can affect copper metabolism, so that's something to keep an eye on. Western Pennsylvania, Miss Trio. And the fellow on Periscope calling me a fraud, please specify. I'll be happy to address it. Mask when walking outside, Lisa, I do that. Probably not for any good reason other than to signal other people a willingness to do so. Let's see what this is. Kimberly, you're back, and you've got a click through for COVID-19. Yeah, more kids are getting cases. Right. More kids are turning positive. That doesn't mean they're getting sick. So let's see what that article says. So there's always been the possibility of carriers, much like animals. They don't specify. No symptoms. Most kids who get it have no symptoms. They say it right there in the article, so there you go. So they can harbor the virus, but they do not get sick. So watch the headlines. They are grossly distorting. Cooking accident. Wow, what a mess. Yeah, but the presumption is that they can still pass it. But though that has not been documented, actually, I'm going to say that's probably true, but you have to show that there is carrier and infectivity. They don't get infected and that they don't get sick. 108 degrees in Arizona. It's 104, I heard, in Los Angeles today. You live too, guys? Biden said wear a mask outside. Well, look, if you can stay 6 feet away from people, you don't have to wear a mask. Outdoor UV with the proper ventilation, you're in pretty good shape. Have I looked at Louisiana numbers lately? I have not, so let's do that. I was looking at Georgia, and they really are. They need to get their act together a little bit. So let's look at Louisiana. If I can get that here, give me a second. Louisiana shows you look like California in a way, but not as high a case per 100,000. You're plateaued in all respects. You're coming back down off the new cases. Your hospitalizations are down. Your death rate's down. So Louisiana had a little surge, like many states, California, Florida, Georgia. And the only one that I see that's not really getting back under control is Georgia. And having just been there, and I had a negative COVID test yesterday, by the way, Georgia is the one state where I noticed people were not very compliant with the masks, and they need to get that together. The Atlanta airport particularly was kind of disturbing to me. Michael Loveland, I don't know about laughing off that Russian vaccine. I certainly wouldn't take it, but I don't know that I would laugh it off. Why is C. difficile so hard to treat? Because it gets resistant to some of the antibiotics we like to use. That's what makes it tough. And we have to recolonize your gut with normal bacteria after a C. diff episode. Do I think school kids, what do I think about kids going back to school? I think it's vital. I think we've got to do it. I think we have to do it safely. Do I think California can reopen restaurants? Absolutely, again, safely. It's clear that masks work. It's clear that distancing work. We were doing it for a while. Bars and congregating in the streets without masks is how we pass this thing. The PCR test for COVID reliable? Yeah, Crazy Mook, it's pretty reliable. Yeah, Todd, they keep removing stuff talking about hydroxychloroquine. Hopefully they'll get the right studies done. There are so far no studies, which is weird, and trying to figure out why it is that there's no studies of hydroxychloroquine with zinc, and zinc is apparently the active agent, in the early stages of COVID-19. It's only in the hospitalized cases where it was never intended to be useful, or in prophylaxis, again, that was without zinc, but okay, I'm ready to accept that prophylaxis, it probably is not necessarily good there, certainly not without zinc. Let's see, herd immunity, indeed effective. How can we achieve herd immunity when we're actively trying to prevent people from becoming exposed? Yeah, Monica, we don't know where herd immunity, where that spot is for herd immunity. 70% is sort of the thought in say, influenza and measles, things like that. We don't know if that's the same with COVID. It probably is. And we are trying to avoid getting hundreds and hundreds of thousands of deaths while we get the vaccines rolled out. And going for herd immunity could result in untoward death. That's really the idea. Canada is doing great. How is Arizona doing? I haven't looked at that. Hold on. Dr. Z used 200 milligrams of zinc per day. Now he lowered that to 25 milligrams. So let's look at full Arizona here. One second. Arizona. I think this is Arizona. Let's make sure that is Arizona. Yeah, Arizona had a little outbreak and it's completely over. You're back to your baseline where you were in June, essentially. Death rates down, hospitalizations down. So, I mean, whatever went on in Arizona is pretty much over. I mean, you can say the same thing of California, though there's a little bit of persistence in California. Let's kind of look at that, which is why I'm anxious to open things up if they do it with masks and distancing, which we didn't do. No, we're still about halfway back to where we were in. That's your negative COVID test you pasted, or mine? Yeah, there's my negative COVID test up there. In California, we
Don't sell it or anything.
in California, we're on our way. We were on our way down, and then we had a backlog of tests where there was an electronic site that went haywire, and because of that, they're bringing cases back online that were backlogged, and so you're seeing an uptick in California. And so the slope of the downward slope in the number of cases is not as steep as we thought it was. So we'll see how that plays out. In Los Angeles, we've gone from like 4,000 cases a day down to about 2,500 cases, or maybe 2,200 cases a day. Yes, Petra, that is very normal in teenage years. Yep, Christopher, that was one of the arguments about hydroxychloroquine, that it's maybe big pharma lining up because it's so cheap and so widely available. I will repeat what I said yesterday, which was that I was doing a continuing medical education exam, and in that exam, they were advocating, of course, hydroxychloroquine for first-line use in rheumatoid arthritis and lupus and ankylosing spondylitis and mixed connective tissue disease. And that's been used for 35 years that way. I prescribed probably 1,000 doses for those conditions. But the striking thing that got my attention was they were advocating that it continue during pregnancy, that you leave somebody on hydroxychloroquine full strength during pregnancy, which I cannot think of another medication that has that recommendation. That is how safe it is. So this business of it being unsafe is bizarre, and please don't listen to that. Chloroquine has some problems associated with it. Chloroquine, not hydroxychloroquine. Chloroquine can cause mood disturbances and weird dreams and even psychoses and cardiac arrhythmias, which is why we don't use chloroquine. We use hydroxychloroquine. Let's see. Did I find the PDF? No, I did not. What's up with Florida? Okay, you guys want to know what's up with Florida? I will look at that. You can look yourself. Just go to COVIDtrackingproject.com and you will find all this. It's stuff you can just easily follow. But I think I was looking at Florida was all back to normal, if I remember right. Not normal in the sense of no outbreak, but yeah, they've come down considerably. They're about like California, but they're about halfway back to normal, to where they were in June. They were really quite low. They were almost like New York. And New York is way down to 500 cases per day. And now they've gone from 500 cases a day in June all the way up to 12,000 or so cases, and now down to 7,000 cases. So they've got a ways to go to get back to where they were, but hospitalizations are down, death rate is down. Those are the things you really want to see declining. Okay, let me look at your restream here. So I didn't know what you wanted me to do with that. I'm sorry.
Is it still up?
I don't know. I didn't know what you wanted to do with it.
Sorry.
Is that something you want me to do something with, or?
No, I'm sorry. I forgot to put you back on. I thought I put you back on the screen, but it popped back. Sorry.
Okay.
You're back.
Which state do I believe is dealing with COVID-19, Johnny? That is New York and New Jersey are dealing with it very effectively. Though now I'll tell you what's happening here, where I am right now, is that people are so scared by what happened. It was so brutal that people are not going back to work. People are not coming back to Manhattan. They're wearing their masks fastidiously. But the government is encouraging people to come back rather than what's happening in California, where the government is literally threatening the population on a daily basis. If you live in Los Angeles, you have your mayor telling you he's going to shut you down. You have the governor telling you that you're doing a bad job for reasons which is what's causing the pushback, which is why people don't wear the masks in California. The health messaging has been horrible. This is not how you do health messaging. Having done Leveline for all those years, I worked in the field of health messaging, and I was around and kept up on all the research on this. And what the research showed very clearly is that if you want to change a person's behavior, a health behavior, you can't tell them what to do. You have to create a narrative, a story for them, a relatable source, a narrative about somebody you're interested in, and that they're relatable to that, and that there's some humor in it. So Loveline was a perfect mix of all that, in the sense that the story was the caller. The callers were relatable because it's other young people. Adam provided the humor, and that was getting the message through. That's how you do that. In terms of doing, sitting from the governor's office or the mayor's office and telling people you're going to shut them down, that is the worst possible health messaging they can do. If you want to see some other good health messaging, look at the Party Bros free mask video. That was perfect messaging. That's how you get people to change their behavior, because you see how foolish you are if you refuse to wear a mask. This is Justin wants to know, why wasn't H1N1 more hyped during the Obama administration? That was a pandemic. Yes, there was a pandemic that killed 600,000 people, infected somewhere between 500 and 1 billion people. I got it. It nearly killed me. It routinely killed 20 to 40-year-olds. It was horrible. And the press elected not to make it a major story. And the government elected not to make it a major story. They elected to allow the medical system to deal with it, which is what we did. It was not as contagious as the COVID, making this a different situation. So it isn't technically proper to compare pandemics. But the fact that you don't know one happened and the other, we locked you up for 4 months, it seems to me there's a middle ground. There's a middle ground in there somewhere. Let's see, what do you want me to look at here? Coded COVID-19 coding. Why do you want me to look at the ICD-10 for the coding on New York City restaurants are open outdoors? Yep, they are. Yes, that at-home, Andrew, that at-home saliva test is going to might be a deal maker. What am I trying to say? Be important. Let's put it that way. And it's going to be interesting. I was thinking about positivity rates and how much they're making of positivity rates. And I think positivity rates should really only be made a lot of if you're doing random testing. We are not doing random testing. We are doing people that are motivated to be tested because they've either thought they have contact or they have symptoms. that's going to have a higher positivity rate than just random testing. So watch, mark my words, when they start doing the saliva test at home and we have really true random testing, the positivity rate's going to go way down, way, way, way down. Wasn't SARS as devastating, Linda asked? SARS was much more deadly, as was MERS, but much less contagious, much less contagious. People are staying in hate of the mayor. That could be. People are afraid of the social unrest. Yes, Lois, that is true. The streets are not safe at night in New York. That is true. But daytime, it seems pretty normal. California's taken it too far. Sophia, I agree with that. The fear and anxiety is caused by the government there rather than the virus, which is crazy. In Georgia, it's sort of every man for themselves, and they need to do a better job. New York, people are scared to death by the virus because of what they've been through, wearing their mask fastidiously, everybody. California, the government is so far into their business compared to the other states I've been to. It's unbelievable. It's almost like a war camp, like they're lording over us. And people are pushing back and not wearing the mask. That's why that's happening. Mrs. P, let's see. Daphne, I am comfortable flying now. People wear masks. Although, again, out of Atlanta, I didn't like the airport. There was a lot of lack of mask wearing there, and there were some people that wearing the mask below their nose getting on my plane, so I worried about that a little bit. Obviously, I have a negative COVID test now. I did not get it. Flight attendants are not getting sick. Pilots are not getting sick. The air is circulated every 2 minutes. We used a UV wand on the seats. That's what I did, and I used my Clorox wipes. There's UV. And wore my mask the whole time. So, Lisa, who's a communist and why? Will I ever have Dr. Oz on my podcast? That is a good idea. I will see if I will get him on the stream at some point. Where did I get my UV wand? I got it at, let's see if they have a Red Hawk website. Let's see if they have their website up yet. Give me a second. WK web. Let's just see what comes up. All kinds of stuff. Red Hawk Casino. Oh boy. There must be a different... Yeah, it's not coming up that easily. Let's look at this. Medical devices. Yes, it was... Okay, Red Hawk Medical Devices. RedHawkMedical.com. It looks like that might be it. Let's see. Let's see. Hang on. See if I can get Red Hawk. That's not it. Does not appear to be it. Nope, that's a wheelchair company. Trying, you guys. I'm trying to find it. Red Hawk Medical Products. I guess they don't have their website yet. So I used, I think it was 8664 Red Hawk. I think that was the number I was using. I'm looking around here. Give me a second. It also needledestructiondevice.com. You can find some stuff there. So, okay, let me get, yes, they have gotten sick, pilots and flight attendants. Kimberly, where are you seeing that? Because the data I was seeing is that it's very unusual. They've tested positive, some, but I'm not seeing anybody getting sick. You tell me where you see that data, and I will happily look at that. But of course, they have the same, they can get sick like anybody can, right? But the incidence, my understanding is, from most of the airlines, it's very, very, very low. I have flown a bit now since this whole thing has started, and again, my COVID is negative. Masks work, UV works. Andrew is telling us that Mass General Hospital is down to 14 beds in use for COVID. So in Massachusetts, things are much better. In Boston, they're much better. They're generally better everywhere. I mean, recently, I've not seen higher than 20% COVID cases in any given hospital, but the hospitals are full because people have been delaying their medical care, and so people are coming in with more serious illness because of delay of care. I had to convince somebody to go to the hospital yesterday. And it's stunning to me that people are not going in. That's a major, major mistake. You're not going to get COVID by going to an emergency room. They have separated the populations out. Kimberly, careful with that one. False sense of security. Give me the data, Kimberly. Give me that data. And by the way, it's not the same as staying home. I understand that. Should Dr. Fauci be our North Star? Clint, yes, absolutely. I've said that from the beginning. I will continue to say that. He selects what he says very, very, very carefully, and thus far I've not seen him say anything dramatically, certainly not different than currently available medical wisdom. And he says it in a very careful way. Can I see Missouri's number? Why don't you guys look up these numbers for yourself? It's so easy. Let's go to Missouri. I also wanted to look at Massachusetts too while we're at it, so we'll stay in the M's. Missouri. All right, what's going on in Missouri? Yeah, you guys had a little outbreak like everybody. You're heading back towards your baseline. You're at about, we're at about 800 cases a day, and you want to get down below 500. Death rate is falling, hospitalization. You're about like California, essentially. You're about halfway back to your baseline where you were. But oh, that was Mississippi. I beg your pardon. Let's look. Let's see if we can get Missouri. Okay, hang on a second. So Mississippi had a little outbreak that was. Missouri's about the same, except your hospitalization rate is sort of high, which is kind of weird. Death rate's falling, everything else is falling, but I don't know why your hospitalization rate is staying up. You're heading back towards your baseline from June, but presumably that hospitalization rate will fall. Why that's higher than other states, kind of an interesting question. And let's look at Massachusetts. Okay, Massachusetts here. Way down, yeah. So that makes sense that they would be having few cases at the Mass General. Death rate's way, way, way down to literally 18 cases. So that's pretty wild. Okay, I'm going to go back to the stream, the chats, and see if Kimberly answered me on that. Rebecca, the deets, Google which deets are that? Messaging still confusing to you guys? Explain to me why. Okay, I did Missouri numbers. Linda Straub says no flight attendants have caught coronavirus recently. I don't know that that's right. I'm sure some have, but it's very unusual apparently.
Somebody sent this.
What is that now? 14 Hawaiian Airlines attendants test positive. Did they get it on the land or in the air? That's the question. So that's interesting. So there's one that got it.
It says.
So there's a little outbreak there. Booty full. I don't know if all coronaviruses will be covered by any of the vaccines. I'm not aware of that. They're all going after generally the spike protein, and so that's a universal to this coronavirus. I do know that there's a nasal spray being worked on that may prevent all coronaviruses from binding at our respiratory centers and thereby preventing all coronaviruses, and that would be sure interesting because that would do away with the common cold. Okay, Gene wants me to watch the interview with Dr. Fauci. And Joseph says, hoax virus. Why do you say that? Rebecca, are you talking about the details from the Hawaiian airline thing that we just put up here?
We asked if it's a hoax.
I said my sister's a flight attendant and has said there's no one that she knows of. Right, it's very unusual. It's very unusual. And and there's so many people flying. Is it true the chance of not dying from COVID is 99.96%? No, it's about 99.3%. That's the chance of not dying of COVID right now. That's based on current fatality rate. Now, obviously, so you're way over 99% probable of getting through this without death, unless you're in a risk category where it can go up to about a 10% risk or so. So it's about the same as influenza if you're young. So people are freaking out about something that is not going to kill them. Of course, we all heard the scary outlying stories where somebody does get complications. Yeah. The chef has coronavirus and he coughs on the food. I'd see how that might be able to transmit it, but I know of no cases that have actually transmitted that way. Food does not seem to be immune to transmission. It's respiratory center to respiratory center. 99.3%. Right, Connie, I think that's correct. I think the fatality rate is now 0.7%. Chest tightness is usually anxiety once you've had everything done like that, Josh. So you might want to talk to your doctor about that. Just wear a mask, yeah. You can have... is it inevitable, this is an interesting question, without a vaccine everyone will be infected unless we all wear masks and physically distance? Not everyone, right? About 60-70% will. The real question we have, though, is how long is immunity achieved for this virus, and will people that had it one season get it a year later, and could we have recurrences in the same person? That is an unknown. So I would not personally want to take that chance. Carl Michael Roth says he had the Russian vaccine yesterday, and he's saying there are no side effects. Of course, it takes about 3 days to get side effects from a vaccine, so we'll see how the next couple of days go. Okay, what amount of people are asymptomatic, and the time the virus has to evolve? Shouldn't we be more concentrated on herd immunity and lessening restrictions? You could make that argument. You can make the argument that we should be living more liberally with the virus, and given that 60% are asymptomatic, we should be allowing more people to get this thing. The problem is that it can really spiral pretty intensely, and the fear is that it will break into populations that are at higher risk, and we'll see the death rate go up rather dramatically. So I think the better part of valor is to sort of sit tight and take reasonable measures and live with this thing. What's going on in Alabama? I will tell you in 1 second. Alabama is... All right. Alabama is looking a little bit sort of like Mississippi in a way. They had an outbreak like all of us. New deaths are down. Hospitalizations are plateauing and turning down. The new case rate is definitely down, but you're about a third of the way back to your June baseline. So at that point, you were at 400 cases a day, and now you're around 1,600 cases a day. So you got some work to do. Wear your mask. Be careful. I mean, it's still active in your community. What do I think about outbreaks being mostly in the southern states? Any correlation with immigration? Ken, I'd just been to one of the southern states, and people were not being super compliant with the mask as compared to, say, California, where they either do it because their government is scaring them, or they're rebelling against the government and not wearing it. Here in New York, they are fastidiously doing it. Okay, Caroline likes the good that has come out of all this. Are concert theaters gone as we know forever? Absolutely not. They will be back once we get all vaccinated up. Kimberly, you got a link for me here, so I'll look at that. I assume that has to do with the flight attendants. Let's see. UV light kills CRE and touch surfaces in 15 minutes. Yes, there's a lot of studies like that show 15-20 minutes does kill UV. It does kill with UV, but there's some study that these wands can do it in 20 seconds. Now I'm not know if that's proven yet, but there's some anecdotal evidence that is so. Robert, thank you for that super chat. The governor is scary, Caroline, and so is our mayor, who does it all in the name of love. In the name of love, he's destroying people. Well done, Mayor Garcetti. Well done. Southerners don't take too kindly to being told what to do. I think that's a large part of it. I think it's a cultural thing. Yes, I'm doing a live stream on Tuesday for the opium crisis. Should Adams and Fauci resign for early misinformation? Tom Brady. Categorically no. Let me state it again. There was no misinformation. Everything they said was carefully measured. Their words were carefully selected, and they spoke the truth based on currently available medical wisdom. At the time, we believe, remember all we were getting into in hand washing and handling Amazon packages and handling our groceries, being super fastidious about that because we thought it was transmitted on the hands, like viruses tend to be. And their concern was having a mask on, we would have our hands at our face too often. Also, there would not be enough available masks for first-line workers. Also, there'd been no data yet to prove that masks work. As soon as the MIT study came out, they changed direction. As soon as it became clear that it was a nose-to-nose type transmission, they started recommending the mask. So this is not It's a bizarre idea to think that that this is how medicine works, everybody. This is how it works. We read, we learn about illnesses, and then we learn current available literature based on available science. We study that literature and make the best assessment for our patients. We are wrong a lot as these ideas evolve, as we get better and better in our understanding of something. The idea that the press can run with a headline and then we're oh my God, we're changing direction, that wasn't right. That's how medicine works. That's how it works. The thing that's not being discussed that is more problematic is the fact that we had governors making massive medical decisions for what are called non-pharmacological interventions without understanding they were going to have extraordinary untoward consequences, and now we're seeing it. I don't know if you saw what the CDC came out yesterday, but SAMHSA, I mentioned this yesterday, the Substance Abuse Mental Health Services Administration made a very powerful statement to look at the CDC data. We now have anxiety disorders 3 times the third quarter of 2019, 25 versus 8%. Depression, 4 times what it was second quarter of 2019, 24% versus 6.5%. Suicide up, substance abuse up. I am telling you that the death from the mental health and economic consequence of this outbreak and what they've done is going to rival the death rate from COVID. Mark my words on that. Pay attention to that data. You'll see as time goes on. Let's see, specific breathing techniques. Yeah, 9/11 was canceled. That was terrible. I agree with that as well. Okay, let me see what else you guys have up your sleeves here. Okay. Hi, Austin, Texas. David, we have an immune system. Why aren't we hearing about how to nurture it? Well, you are. It's just that this is a virus that blows in, it does what it does. And all we know is that if you have an inflammatory component to your metabolic state, that tends to work against you. In terms of who gets this and does not and the complex genetics of that, we have no idea. Obviously, exercise, proper diet, sleep, that kind of thing helps our immune system, but it certainly does not mean you can fight off the virus just because. We will have more data on T cells soon. I'm going to be working with a company that does T cell analysis so we can see how and where and what increases T cell readiness to fight the virus. So that's all data that's coming, but it's going to be more on the sort of vaccine therapeutic front than some sort of dietary management. Zakura, the hemidiaphragm issue is going to obviously make things a little more difficult if you get the pneumonia associated with COVID-19. Yeah, and vitamin D, zinc, right? Vitamin D, zinc, vitamin C, all that is helpful, we think. Yes, they're not being addressed, my friend. The mental health issues are not being addressed, and they are profound. Tom Cigar saw last night's Your Mom House podcast. You found the cure? I'm nervous to know what they talked about. So, yeah, Connie, if it was as easy as just changing your diet, believe me, there would be no illnesses ever, because we would just change our diet to get our immune system to fight off cancer and tuberculosis, which kills more people in the world than anything else, and schistosomiasis and Tsutsugamushi disease. Things you've never even heard of are out there waiting to infect you, and there's not a lot you can do to prevent them if you get exposed. Bring attention to Hawaii. Government will not open up. No tourism. People are in bad shape. Yeah, Robert, I think that seems like a mistake to me. You ought to allow certain kinds of controlled opening, it just seems to me. I'm extremely worried about suicide rates now, not just during the holiday season, but now. McDonald's Farmer. Yeah, Nancy, exercise, proper nutrition, sleep, limit your alcohol intake, or eliminate your alcohol intake. All that is helpful. But really, who gets this thing and then how bad they get it is a pretty complicated question, much more than you think. Opiate misuse and overdose place a tremendous burden on Missouri families. Yes, we're going to be talking about that on Tuesday. And that's a really common thing in every state, frankly. Vicky, yeah, there will be a rapid home test soon and maybe mailed to you. I don't think you have to go to CVS even to get it. I'm not sure it will be a game changer, though. I really don't. I just don't see it. I just see that what you'll see is the positivity rate dropping dramatically. We'll be able to follow contacts a little bit better, but I don't see, unless we test everybody every week, I don't see how a single ice pick test that costs a few weeks is going to give us that much information. I just don't see it. Maybe I'm wrong. I could be wrong about that. Maybe people know how to use that information. I just don't see how it's going to change what we're doing. Jan Smith, I do trust Dr. Fauci. Everyone's keep asking that. Intermittent fasting with ketogenic diet, I think, Janine, I think that's probably the best you can do for your immune system. I think that those are reasonable things. Also avoid, this is in terms of the inflammatory component of the COVID outbreak, avoid the polyunsaturated fats. Stay with tallow, butter, olive oil, avocado oil if you want. What do I think about the vaccine coming out? I can't get it fast enough myself. You're saying I don't read the comments, so whatever you say doesn't matter. Well done, my friend. I guess that's true. Is that I can't see your name, unfortunately, because it's in a different color here. It looks like Miss D or something. If you have direct exposure several times without getting sick, at some point, does your immune system get tired? No, there isn't that sort of thing. If anything, you would get colonized, and your immune system was controlled, and you would have antibodies against it. There's not sort of a fatigue component in the. I mean, what happens is it doesn't get fatigued; it gets overwhelmed, and that either happens or it doesn't. Please help you in Hawaii. They refuse to open. It's ruining many lives. No economy, no tourism. We need help from Maui. Yeah, I'm sure you do. I'm in New York City right now, which is a freaking ghost town, and people are struggling here too. So. What I'm looking forward to is us getting the vaccine as soon as possible, and then getting back to celebrating and going out and going to Hawaii and doing things like that we've been unable to do for so long. Kim, you keep sending me these big links. Let me try another one. See what you got here. Fauci says he's not pleased with the state of the coronavirus pandemic in the United States. Let's see what he actually said. These headlines are almost never accurate. Let's see. We certainly are not where I hope we would be. Who would be? As outbreaks turn. That's it. That's what he said. I certainly are not where I hope we would be. Okay. Yeah, I hope we'd be better too. That doesn't mean that he has some. That he's not pleased. It doesn't mean he's not pleased. It's really funny. It's ridiculous. These headlines are so bizarre. Did you send another one, Kimberly? Let's see if this is another. It goes so fast, I almost can't click on your link. Yeah, that's your Fauci one. Yeah, he would rather be doing better. Good, we all would. Serious question, is Anavar safe for the heart if used responsibly? All those androgenic anabolic steroids can be very dangerous to the heart, liver, strokes, kidney. How much is safe? We don't know that. We just don't know it. I mean, think of all the major bodybuilders from around the 70s and 80s. They are not with us anymore. Now, those guys were using a lot, but what is a lot for a given individual? And so, again, it's not been properly studied. Is social distancing more important than the mask? I'm going to say that the masks are more important. That's what I'm going to say. I think they're both important. Let's see, different version of COVID, one mask will, vaccine, yes, one vaccine will work. You're asking because there's different kinds of COVID out there. Because, look, in order for the COVID to enter our respiratory system, the spike protein, those spikes you see on the picture of the coronavirus, has a binding site that has to bind with what's called the ACE2 receptor in the lining of our nose and respiratory tract to get in. It also has an androgen-dependent receptor that's a cofactor in this. That binding has to happen. This spike protein is always the same in all the coronaviruses, so you can direct a vaccine at that spike protein. It never changes. So that's that. Okay, Monique, Monique, there's three reasons I'm in a hurry to get the vaccine. One is I read all the research and it looks exceptionally safe and exceptionally good. So my assessment is I'm taking little or no risk, number one. Now I agree, I'm not making it as safe as possible. A 6 or 8 month, like when the chickenpox vaccine came out, I didn't let my kids get it. I wanted to see a little bit more time in use throughout the world before I made a decision on that. Obviously, it's safe now. But with this one, I'm in a hurry to be not infected. I'm in a hurry to get back to my life. I'm in a hurry to move around, and the vaccine will let me do that. So number three, I want to help move forward the medical technology. I want to be a part of the solution. I'm willing to put my body on the line to help medical science. So A, I've read it, assessed it looks very safe to me. B, I want to get over this nonsense and be done with it. And 3, I want to help medical science. So those are my reasons. Do people need more training on how to understand Dr. Fauci? Yeah, I know, Eric Anderson. I'm not sure if I can do that because he comes from a very highly trained place where he is choosing every word exquisitely carefully to the point where, he's almost overly conservative, but he's overly accurate, and then he gets criticized for being, missing the exact target. So that's crazy. Should a face shield be required in conjunction with masks? I disagree with that unless you're in an environment of high a lot of droplets being emitted, something like coughing or an ICU, something like that. Would I participate in a phase 3 trial? Yes, I've signed up for 3 of them. Aussie Fly Girl. I've signed up for 3 different ones. They've not selected me for any of them yet. Boy, Kimberly, you keep sending me all these links. Let's see what this link is. Enhanced binding of protein receptor by distal. Yeah, I think you're talking about this. That's the inhaled nanoparticle that might help reduce the risk for COVID. That's going to be interesting. No, the Big Apple cannot keep me away. I'm here now. And we've been going around just really sort of examining what's going on here. It's a ghost town. It's a ghost town. Have I read that hydroxychloroquine and zinc kills cancer? That doesn't really fit for me. So that's interesting. I'd like to see that study. And by the way, if it kills cancer in vitro in a lab, it doesn't mean anything about what's going on in the human body. Or at least it's not necessarily reflective of what goes on in the human body. And Matthew Woods, you keep repeating Adam's name. I'd like to know why. Yeah, Patrick, this kids going back to school is really it's unbelievable. They're throwing more technology at these kids as though that's going to make a difference in this distance learning. It is not. Some of them are homeless. Some of them are in domestic violence situations. Some of them have their own mental health issues or special needs. And these kids are not going to learn at a distance, period. Period. I don't care what technology you give them. Let's say you had a mild case and recovered. If you get it again, can your reaction be worse than the first time? Yeah, could be. I've seen a case kind of like that. But we don't even know if that's a recurrence or a reinfection. Do I see that Andrew Lloyd Webber did a trial? Interesting. No, I did not. That's interesting. I wonder what he got into. Yes, Tom Brady. The below average students will suffer the most. They're falling out of bed. It's really getting bad for them. Why am I sticking up for Fauci? Because I've been watching and working alongside of him or under his auspices for 35 years. It's the reason I got on the radio was Dr. Fauci when I was a young medical student early in my career. As a physician, he was saying, get out there and educate about this thing called GRIDS. Then we started calling it AIDS. Then we had the causative agents as HTLV3 that became HIV. And I took that very seriously, and that's why I went on the radio. He was just saying, we got to get out there and talk about it, and no one was talking to young people about it, believe me. Why didn't I get an H1N1 vaccine? It was not available at that time. They didn't have it yet. That's why I got H1N1 during the 2009 pandemic. The vaccine followed that. And now it's often in the flu vaccine. If it takes 2 weeks for the flu shot to work, if you get sick from the flu shot, you got your flu before the show worked in your system. I'm not sure what you're asking, Annie. It takes about 6 weeks, maybe up to 2 months for optimum antibody response to the flu vaccine, which is why we give it in September, October, November, because the peak flu season is later. People get a reaction. They can get a local reaction, which sometimes even needs antibiotics because it can be a little bacterial infection that gets introduced. And they can get a systemic reaction as the immune system turns on. That is not the flu. That is not the flu. They will not be producing flu viral particles. That is not the flu. Oh, I see, Matthew. We'll try it again. Corolla. Didn't more people die from H1N1? About 600,000 people died worldwide. They speculate that maybe 1 billion got sick, and it killed more 20 to 40-year-olds. It was killing lots of 20 to 40-year-olds, not like this one who killed people with pre-existing conditions and the elderly. What do I think before the virus is under control? When do I think before the virus is under control? I think we're moving in a very, very positive direction, and all we have to do is keep wearing our masks and being careful, and in 2 to 4 weeks, things should be really much better. Let me go back to looking at, let me see, I'll just pick up LA County, no, here's California, just for the sake of it, because California's had a bit of an outbreak lately. It is... Yeah, there's this weird uptick now because we had a lab snafu where we had a backlog of positive tests that are just now coming through. So I'm going to guess that our downward slope is about half as steep as it actually looked like it was, which means it may take us 4 to 6 weeks to get really back down, unless the rate of decline accelerates at some point, which it could. It could. Excuse me. That is allergies, which every time the wind blows outside here, I really get a snootful. Dustin read that with the 1918 flu epidemic, where'd you go? Oh my gosh, you just moved through here. I can't find you again. The New York City data is comparable to the Spanish flu in terms of infection and deaths. That makes sense. The problem is that what happened in New York City in 1918 also happened in Philadelphia and San Francisco and other cities in the Midwest, which was much more serious death rate, much higher death rate than COVID, much. Thank you for the blessings. I appreciate that. So let's kind of wrap this thing up. Do you have any questions about anything else, anybody? Is all we're thinking about is COVID today? You guys have a lot of COVID questions, but happy to answer anything else. My back is hurting. Should I send my 2.5-year-old back to preschool? I got to tell you, the daycare and preschool, they're rushing to open those up. Those scare me more than grammar schools. So I would make sure that there are adequate precautions there. Again, little kids tend not to get this thing. Corona-like illness is down to 2% of emergency department visits. Texas hospital, this is our friend Andrew Ashkenaz-Vila. I got to read this again. Okay, as of August 12th, coronavirus illnesses are down to like 2% of emergency department visits. Texas hospital COVID-19 census down another 15%. 15% of beds today. So, yes. Christopher Lundgren, I don't know about that. They are which vaccine they're even talking about, and that 3 months. By the way, I would take the 3 months and then take a booster. So it doesn't seem to me that doctor really knows what he or she is talking about in terms of vaccine therapies. Do seasonal allergies make me dizzy? They can, because they feel your head fills up and it makes you feel like you have a light head, and it can affect your eustachian tube function, and thereby your vestibular system can get off a little bit. Any advice for someone with narcissistic personality disorder? Keep your feet under you, know where you are at all time, don't believe anything. Why does Trump keep saying the Spanish flu started in 1917? I don't know when it started. I think it might have started. It started in Europe and I don't know what the date was, in troop carriers and things like that. So that's interesting. And I think there was actually some outbreaks well before the 1918 surge. I think it actually might have been quite a bit before, even before 1917. So that's interesting. How did Fauci predict a pandemic in 2017? Did he? I'm not sure he did. Hawaii's not like any other state. 90% of tourism there. Yep, that's part of 90% of your economy. How do we get help from the mainland to save us from our governor? Well, I know a lot of your tourism comes from California, and we're as locked down as Hawaii is. Yes, California is definitely on the downside of the second wave, and we're going to get it down quite a bit over the next month. And so Hawaii, I mean, the trick is to start. I think you guys have a 2-week quarantine in Hawaii too, and as long as they have that 2-week quarantine, people are not going to come. So unless they get rid of that, it seems to me Hawaii would be a reasonable place to visit. It's outdoors. There's a lot of UV, and you know, if that's true, they're just not going to put up with the 2-week quarantine. That's the part that keeps people out. I guess Fauci predicted a pandemic at a Georgetown graduation speech. Well, pandemics are inevitable parts of human biology. That's inevitable. We have them every 10 years or so. This is the first one that we've behaved like this in response to. That's the thing. Will celebrity rehab come back? You have to ask the networks about that. They don't seem to want to do that. Been on 60 pounds during the pandemic. Wow, good for you. Best method to correct AFib, Bill, the best method is to have ablation, right? Though the ablation doesn't work all the time, and most people end up in chronic atrial fibrillation, which means taking some sort of a rate-suppressing medication. There's lots of different ones. Sometimes it's as simple as taking cardizem, and then, of course, anticoagulants, because when you have atrial fibrillation, you throw strokes. Fauci guaranteed there would be a pandemic during the Trump administration. That's interesting. Yes, I'm on board with that, Mr. Gates, although he said some really bizarre things about hydroxychloroquine that made me concerned about where he's getting his information from. California is an open-air, self-guarded prison camp. Patrick, yeah, pretty much. And I can tell you from being in other states, it gets increasingly obvious wherever you go. We're going to have Dr. Patterson, Dr. Yo next week. I'm excited for that too, and hopefully FDA approval comes soon for leronlimab. It has been submitted. Great. Thoughts on middle-aged men doing testosterone replacement therapy? I don't think it has a significant effect, provided you're on low-level replacement on your immune functioning. May even make it better. Who knows? We just don't know that yet. Would I consider moving out of the state, Michael? I would love to move out of the state. I would kill to move out of the state. But I'm encumbered there with jobs and things, and I don't think I can get out. But man, I would. It's really an unpleasant state compared to everywhere else I visited, frankly. And they're going to massively increase taxes soon, and there will be a flight. I apologize to Nevada, Arizona, and Texas, where all the Californians are just going to be running. Denise, that's really interesting that he said that. Very interesting. I've not heard about Sizemore, the Berkshire. I hope he's doing okay. I do have some contact with him every so often. Yes, he said you should be able to vote in person. Right, we should be able to, look, the CDC has never recommended locking down. The CDC has recommended distancing and fastidious mask wearing. That is their primary mode of preventing transmission, and we know that works. Seattle homelessness getting as bad as California, and same with New York City. It's getting bad here too. Okay to fly, Lisa. I've flown quite a bit now, and I feel pretty safe flying, but we'll see if I make it home and remain COVID negative. I just had my COVID test yesterday. Okay, so I'm going to wrap this thing up. We appreciate you guys for being here. Emmett, I don't know what you're talking about even, so there you go. Aussie Fly Girl, I didn't see what you had said there, so I can't repeat it. If I have cardiomyopathy, is there more risk if you are infected? Yes, for sure. We know that cardiomyopathy is a disease of the heart muscle, right? So your heart is failing somewhat, and myocarditis and heart failure is a big feature of the inflammatory complications associated with COVID, so you don't have a lot of reserve. So that's what makes it difficult. We probably will not be around tomorrow. We may be around Monday night and Tuesday night. I will tell Adam Carolla, Patrick, you said hi. Any other questions non-COVID related? Be happy to kind of deal with that. The CDC is just the voice of the Trump administration. Well, the CDC is the voice of the federal government, not any particular administration per se. And the people that work there have worked there across all administrations. So, you know, that's just the way it is. They are a scientific organization. Susan is quiet. She's taking a nap. What state would I move to if they had no limits? I think I'd go to Tennessee or North Carolina, or maybe New York, if they get their act back together. New York has been sort of suffering through all this. Well, I don't know how to sign out of this of all of this material here. Are you guys seeing this, the questions alongside of me, or is it just my head you're stuck here seeing? Is hormone replacement therapy if I have cysts in my breasts? Josette, talk to your doctor about that, but it should be the same risk as anybody else. Can fentanyl cause cardiac issues after surgery? Not that I am aware of. What kind of doctor am I? I'm an internist who worked in a psychiatric hospital for 3 decades. Did a full hospital practice and an outpatient practice and ran a large addiction medicine program. So I'm board certified in addiction medicine and in internal medicine. I don't know who Dr. Buttar is. I'm sorry. I don't know what that one is. Ooh, Klonopin for 20 years. Be careful, Janine. Talk to your doctor about that. What's the name of Hillary's condition that caused her eyes to move separately? Intranuclear ophthalmoplegia due to a transverse sinus thrombosis that caused a midbrain stroke right in the region of the nuclei that determine eye movement. Thus, the intranuclear ophthalmoplegia, and that's a really serious thing. That was a serious deal, and at the time, I didn't think that her doctors were taking it as seriously as they should have, And interestingly, they answered all my questions almost like they were interrogatories when I posted them, so I appreciated that. And they sent her to a hematologist, which is what I thought they should do immediately, because she clearly has some sort of a coagulation problem. My fear was due to the Armour thyroid they were giving her for no good reason, which has been reported. Okay, guys, again, I'm trying to figure out, I see a stop thing here, so I will just do that. And I think I'm going to stop rather abruptly today. Hey, Owen in Scotland, very cool. What part of Scotland are you in? Well, I've been all through Scotland. Mission in Enriza, do you believe me for what? Thoughts on Afrin addiction that exists? It's really a dependency more than an addiction. It's called, Noel B, it's called rhinitis medicamentosa. Look up rhinitis medicamentosa. And boy, you have to stop. You have to take some steroids to get off of that. It's very difficult. How many birds are in RPC's bird room? I think there are about 6 or 8, something like that. I didn't look very carefully. Are there effects of a very large benign thyroid nodule left untreated? Thyroid nodules can be problematic. They can be non-benign. They can get big. Usually you get on some kind of suppressive thyroid medicine to suppress that. So I'm doing the bidding, Emmett, of Fauci and Gates. Yes, they call me on a regular basis and ask me to do their bidding. Especially Bill Gates. He calls me all the time and asks me to make sure I do his bidding. 866-4 Red Hawk, I think, is the number to get the wand, Linda. Thank you for that. 866, I think 4 Red Hawk. Yes, I defend Fauci and Gates because I read what they say, and what they say is accurate and has been over very long periods of time. Is it worth getting the HPV vaccine if you have one stable partner? No, I would say it's for people that are sexually active. Robert F. Kennedy about coronavirus aren't vaccinable. That's wrong. That's not true. And maybe Robert Kennedy has just got his information wrong. And he should go, if he wants to talk about biology and medicine, he should go and do the training necessary to be able to do that. Thyroid nodules can be ablated. They can be, that's true. They can also be removed depending on the size. It's so funny to think that, who is that? Emmett thinks that somehow Anthony Fauci and Bill Gates call me to do their bidding. It's crazy. It's really crazy. Good point, which explains him not knowing Dr. Buttar or Dr. Judy Miskowitz. Jimmy, I'm happy to listen to those people. Are they people that are anti-Gates for some reason? Jimmy, you can certainly answer me on the thread here. I'll be happy to see that. Yeah, I take orders from Chaos, the Chaos headquarters. It's the Get Smart, evil empire. Bill Gates is not a doctor. That is correct. But Bill Gates has been studying this and he is a scientist. That's the difference. Bill Gates is a STEM guy and understands how to analyze data. And so that's kind of important in all this. Let's see. We do get there are breakdowns of COVID out there. LA County puts it out for race and socioeconomic status. It's actually right on their dashboard. And in fact, something really interesting is happening in Los Angeles County where African Americans are doing very, very well. I don't know why that's not being promoted and why people are not trying to figure out why they're doing so well in Los Angeles and did so poorly in New York. That's something I think ought to be answered. Hispanics are getting clobbered in Southern California. Gates is a engineer, STEM guy, science and math. The UV light is 20 seconds if you use a wand. Okay. Should people be concerned about taking a vaccine where the clinical trials have been rushed? Reasonable. It's reasonable for you to want to wait 6 months. Very reasonable. That is a individual decision. Personally, I trust what I'm reading in the technology, and I trust what I'm seeing in the outcomes, and I want to be part of pushing the technology forward, and I want to be over this thing. I want to be done with it and not be worrying about getting some stupid illness. Yeah. Please, if you guys wonder about, maybe look at the documentary on Netflix about Bill Gates. You kind of understand where he's coming from. You'll sort of see what's going on there and why he does what he does. Easy to get paranoid about anybody. Yeah, Roy Joy, have you watched the documentary? Watch the documentary. There, like I've said repeatedly, there are always untoward consequences when people that aren't physicians, well, of course physicians too, make medical interventions and don't really understand the potential downsides. We are always, we are drilled with do no harm, and we are drilled with, prepare for untoward effects. All right. Orlando wedding next week, next year, 125 people. Next year, I think, okay, provided you may want to test everybody or get them vaccinated. 125 is a lot. Certainly not now. Linda, you give up for some reason. I don't know why. All right, let me kind of wrap this thing up. We appreciate you guys being here today. I don't think I'm going to be in tomorrow, but I probably will be Monday night. So I'm going to stop this rather abruptly because I don't understand quite this operation the way I should. I'm looking at your last look through on this. All right, we're going to leave it at that, and I will